I think the big surprise for people is that gold is now in the crosshairs of Bitcoin. And more every day, money managers are coming out and saying, you know what, people are actually buying Bitcoin instead of gold, or they're selling gold to buy Bitcoin. Remember when Digital Currency Group over there in New York with Barry Silbert launched that ad campaign, dump your gold and buy Bitcoin, and that was maybe 3 years ago now. The gold community was outraged, like, this is so crazy, no one's gonna sell their gold to buy Bitcoin, and yet it's exactly what's going on right now. So the king is emerging Bitcoin, and it's even replacing gold, and it's happening actually right now.
Yeah, and Adam Smith was right talking about how the economy, and therefore also money, is it must reflect nature. Like, nature has it perfectly. So if you look at, what do you call a flock or a herd of lions and stuff like that?
A pride.
A pride. Well, yeah, the female is with its pride. The female lioness is with its pride. But there's no, there aren't a bunch of dude kings hanging out, right? There's just one huge mane, and he controls everything, and that's his pride. And they don't share territory. There's clear boundaries to their territory.
Yeah.
And the same thing with money. I used to believe, some of the arguments that there would be many monies, right? And they could all compete. There could be many currencies, but there can only be one money at a time, I think.
Well, and politically speaking, people think that there are different political systems. And one major school proposes private property, and the other major school proposes community property, yes. Right? And we talk about socialism/communism versus capitalism/Austrian economics. And so this debate's been going on for a while. Friedrich Hayek, of course, in the Austrian school, said, to your point, that the only time we'll ever have good money that's separate from the state is if it sneaks into existence, and the state is tricked. I think he actually uses the word tricked into not believing that it exists. And it seemed at the time to be a fantasy and an impossibility. Like, how could you sneak good money into the system and the state not notice? And yet Bitcoin did exactly that, to your point. So going forward, though, to say that, okay, Bitcoin is going to be the only money, because only one can be the money, there's only one king, that's true. But it also looks like there's only going to be one political system. It's going to be based on private property. So the problem with socialism and communism and all these other types of community-oriented economic models is that they're going to be de-energized, right? Because as hyper-Bitcoinization takes over, two things happen. And we see this already in Venezuela. Venezuela's energy use is going up, and its carbon footprint is going down. And that seemed even 6 months ago to be an oxymoron, because everyone was saying, oh my God, Bitcoin's boiling the oceans. No. Bitcoin will take more than half of the energy of the world. It's a 51% attack on the global energy supply, but carbon footprint's going to drop 50, 60, 70%, because Bitcoin will use things like volcano energy, geothermal energy, renewable energy. Plus, it'll defund the Pentagon. It'll defund the war machine. It'll defund communism, socialism, all the bureaucrats that are required to impose a top-down socialist political system. They'll be defunded. Many of them will just switch camps and become Bitcoiners. The ones that want to stick around, they'll just wither away and be defunded. So it's not only the rise of one money, but the rise of one economic system. And the closest one, I guess, out there right now would be Austrian economics. So that looks like that's going to be the big winner.
Yeah, and they got waylaid by gold, and gold really failed. Well, basically, gold failed since Bretton Woods and a bit earlier. I mean, the fact that U.S. Treasuries kind of snuck up on gold, the system didn't realize it for a while. Even the fact that Treasuries ever existed, that system, that the U.S. was able to build this huge empire based on Treasuries, it showed you that gold was weak. From that moment, it showed you that gold was actually weak, and it would not survive. And now you see, at the end of this dollar regime, you see the likes of JP Morgan, which is obviously, since the first days of the US Treasury, US dollar fiat system, very powerful, most powerful bank in America. And you see, Jamie Dimon and Max Keiser have been dueling each other through headlines for, at least since 2012 about Bitcoin. And now they come out, JP Morgan says Bitcoin is acting more like digital gold. Okay, they're conceding Max is right when he told them a decade ago. And that is acting like digital gold now more than ever and predicts $146,000. But again, basically as soon as Bitcoin ever was convertible, by the time it hit $1,000, it was all over for the dollar, really. Because if it hits 146,000, as even JP Morgan's conceding, it's going to hit 1.46 million. And then beyond, there will be no Bitcoin conversion rate available for US dollar holders one day.
Right. Hyper Bitcoinization. Everything's priced in Bitcoin. It's unit of account. But another point is that for 10 years, up until maybe last year, so I should say for 8 years, a lot of people said, well, what if governments banned Bitcoin?
Yeah.
And about 3 or 4 years ago, I came out and I said, look, the more likely outcome is that governments will embrace Bitcoin and then they'll start competing with each other to see who has the most Bitcoin. It'll become game theory, will find its way to the sovereign level. Hash wars. Global hash wars is something I coined at the time. That was the first, I think, person to actually coin that phrase. And so now, like in Florida, for example, you had the mayor of Miami said, I'm going to be paid in Bitcoin. And then now the mayor of Fort Lauderdale saying, no, I want to be paid in Bitcoin. Now the mayor of New York saying, no, I want to be paid in Bitcoin. So this idea that Bitcoin is going to be banned by the government is false, completely false. And what I said is going to happen is exactly what's happening. There's the game theory is kicking in. People are competitively, as Michael Saylor has said recently, he who has the most Bitcoin wins, right? So this is a mad scramble, to just get more Bitcoin. That means a couple of things. At the same time, because of the halvings that happen every 4 years, the supply coming out of the mining industry is constantly shrinking and the total supply is finite. So, the demand is going exponential and the supply is shrinking. So, we know very simply what happens to price. Price goes up.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
Do you want to know one thing about crypto? I made over 3,000% in profit in a few weeks. Fact is, the traditional financial system, the traditional money system makes you poor, not rich. If you want to earn $500,000, $1 million, you have to wait until you're 50, 60, 70 in the traditional financial system, and you probably will still be broke. And you will be old. This is not a sexy combination, as you can imagine. But the question is, how can you start in crypto and make these profits? Where to invest? Where to start? My name is Gunnar and I'm from Germany, as you can hear, and things are a little bit different in Germany. More about that later on. Fact is, there are lots of different cryptocurrencies. It's a gigantic universe where beginners and professionals get easily lost. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. There are 7 key steps you need to follow to become successful in this market. You have to know them, and if you fail one of them, it's literally impossible to succeed in this market. Just an example, one of the key points is your exchange, and one of the biggest are, for example, Binance and Coinbase. These are trusted and well-established exchanges, but, and this is a big but, you won't find the super profitable coins on those exchanges. The unknown super profitable coins that get gigantic profits are not traded on those kind of exchanges. They are traded on much smaller insider platforms that are barely known. And I can tell you what those super secret exchanges are and why they are so profitable. And another super important thing are the right information sources. The point is, the internet is gigantic. There are hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels, blogs, pages, and much more. And there are also market makers and influencers. For example, Elon Musk, he is not a crypto guy, but the moment he recommended Dogecoin, it went through the roof, to the moon, so to say. But why did he recommend it? Where did he hear it from? He didn't hear it from newspapers. And believe me, he is listening to someone. But you have to know who, and you have to react before he is reacting. This is really, really important. And these are only 2 of the 7 steps you have to follow in order to be successful in crypto. And if you want to know all of these steps in much more detail, and if you want to have a comprehensive checklist, here's what you should do. There is a link below this video. Click on this link and you will get the opportunity to subscribe to my channel. Click on the link and you will see a video where I explain the next steps. So see you soon. Click on the link now. I'll see you there.